there were videos about kids misbehaving in schools and having very short attention spans. There were videos by ballerina teachers who were shocked that their little girls just wanted to twerk in their ballet class all day. And then the situation got worse and more sinister. Suddenly, teachers and school administrators were coming out to say that the kids in their classes were actually illiterate. They didn't know how to read, and they were continually being graduated to higher and higher classes to be someone else's problem.
The instruction in schools, mainly about sight words and not phonics, is the issue.
Strategies like 3Qing, where kids are taught to pay attention to the first and last letter, the context, and the picture before they even try to sound out the word.
And the idea of this is that, like, if we show you the same book and the same words repeatedly, you'll, like, pick up on it as a way to reading. And that's similar to how we, like, humans learn to speak. Like, if you hear the same words enough time, you'll, like, figure out what it means. The issue is that that's not how our brains work. What this means is that speech comes naturally to humans, but reading does not. We have to, like, introduce new neural pathways so that we can learn how to read.
How did it become mainstream to memorize words by sight and use context clues and guessing strategies to understand what is happening in the passage? We do know that books transition from picture books to books without pictures at some point, right? And thousands of educators went along with this because this was just the latest newfangled teaching approach that led young students, to clarify, outperform in early examinations. This article is a good summary, the decades-long travesty that made millions of Americans distrust their kids' schools. Columbia University's Teachers College announced last month that it is shuttering its once famous, in some circles now infamous, reading organization founded by education guru and entrepreneur. Entrepreneur is a great word for Lucy Calkins because of the amount of money she made off of this enterprise. As many as 1 in 4 U.S. elementary schools used Calkins' signature curriculum. A growing chorus of cognitive scientists, learning experts, and parents, amplified, argued that the Calkins approach was ineffective at best, actively harmful at worst, and a large part of why more than half of our country's fourth graders aren't demonstrating proficiency on reading exams. We really don't have to learn about how bad this method is. I've kind of already glimpsed to you the ideas such as guessing strategies and memorizing sight words that will let you read the thing faster. But if you're wondering how bad it was, this creator had an interesting video side-by-side comparison on what the differences are.
Okay, let's compare balanced literacy and structured literacy. This is not an all-inclusive list, but I included some of the main things that I used to do and now that I no longer do or have replaced them with since learning about the science and evidence of how we learn to read. In a balanced literacy classroom, you're likely to see a word wall, which typically has high frequency words organized by the first letter. In a structured literacy classroom, you're going to see a sound wall, which teaches kids the 44 sounds in the English language. Balanced literacy typically uses these leveled readers, like when you're told that your child's reading at like a level G, but you don't really know what that means. And a structured literacy classroom will have early readers, especially using decodable text. And then we have memorizing words, but this is not an effective way for kids to learn to read. So in a structured literacy classroom, you'll see kids mapping words. Guessing strategies, here I'm talking about when we ask kids to use the first letter and or the picture in order to read a word. In a structured literacy classroom, you will see kids learning decoding skills and using the features of the word in order to read the word.
It's essentially cheating. It's essentially a cheat sheet. If you don't want to listen to a child stutter over v-e-e-t-t, vet, and they say like peanut butter, and that's very painful to do for 2 years of your life, what you can do instead is just give them words on a wall and tell them that that word says vet. When you see that word, that's what it says. It's teaching to the test, and these kids were excelling on early literacy exams, only to have, when they joined upper classes, to start failing in reading. It's like when you come back from the test and you're supposed to relearn the content because it was important, except in this case, it's like literally a life skill that you need for like to be successful in any career and to be an informed voter. I'm sure that's not a debate that we're currently having. So there are a bunch of teachers who now make TikToks who say that they previously taught this kind of curriculum and now they no longer do, or they kind of espouse why this curriculum is messed up. So the new method, which is actually like the old method, which is actually phonics, the new method is called science of learning, which is hilarious. You'd think the previous strategy was based on science too. This teacher says, I always thought that I was really good at teaching reading. I had leveled libraries, a beautiful word wall, that's for those memorizing words, and always came up with super fun ways to memorize sight words. My kids always made gains in reading levels, but what happened after they left me? The headline of this article is that 33% of fourth graders are at or above the proficiency in reading, lower compared to 2019. 33% is like 1/3. It looked like they were reading, but I realized I didn't give them the foundational skills they needed. And even for those who are literate, 54% of adults have literacy below the 6th grade reading level. 31% of 8th graders are at or above the same proficiency levels in reading, again, lower compared to 2019. So I started researching and looking for some trainings, she says. I learned the most popular curriculums were missing key foundational skills. I knew I couldn't be the only teacher who didn't know. Now, this lady's whole platform is now about teaching reading and helping people acquire the right skills to teach their kids properly. Obviously, if you are a teacher and you get a curricular dumped on your desk telling you that this is the newfangled approach to teach reading, and suddenly your kids are excelling in their exams, that might impact your pay, your school's ranking, your teacher ranking. There are immense incentives to teach to the test, and that is the fault of the administration and policymakers. It would be immensely difficult to question these methods if your kids are outperforming all of their exams, even if it seems counterintuitive. We rely on experts for that purpose to believe them as experts and follow their decisions, and all the teachers are practical. The teacher's job is not to define the most effective curriculum for K through 8. Their job is to relay that knowledge into that of the child, and their job is to solve the behavioral issues in the classroom. But this whole situation is also a reminder for the remainder of us of how much our gut is a very powerful tool. Our common sense is a very powerful tool. Too many decisions are based on theories and assumptions alone, and we are gambling with something too high stakes for that kind of thing. Stay on it, my friends, and see you in the next one.